Hey everyone, today I was inspired by Be Reborn. I think that's what it's called. I really should check that before I start quoting people's names and inspired by. I really should know their name better, shouldn't I? But anyway, I'll make sure that's right and link it below. But these are, well, I don't know why I put it in the pack like this. I just made a lot of different things. Numbers, lots of numbers. I think these are so cool. And they're just different. All I used on these was watercolors, but today we're going to try a couple of different methods of coloring our fabric. And this fabric is kind of a cross between a linen and muslin. I really like it. But I just wanted to show you some that I'd already done. Some of these were not good prints, but like this one, I kind of messed up the print. But in my grungy journals, that just might work, so I'm not going to get rid of it. See, I messed up the 3. And I could always tear this where the 3 was not on there. But there are some. And then I did some regular ones that I didn't color, and I don't know why I drug those out, because today's video is how to stamp and color these. All of the stamping on these was done prior to coloring. And I'll show you later on that actually, there is one that was stamped after it was colored, and it was this one, the 8, because I couldn't find it beforehand. And you can kind of see, well, maybe not in my light, but it's a little brighter than the one I did prior to painting. They're a little grungier, a little more muted. I know that my lighting is terrible, and you probably can't tell it. In person, you can really see the difference better. It's not that big of a difference, but this one I did afterwards, and you can tell it's a lot brighter than this one. I think you can tell. But anyway, I think that I've got a fall journal and an ocean journal that I'm working on, and I want some of these kind of pieces for that. So I thought maybe we could just make them real quick together, fun and easy. Okay, so I've laid down some wax paper because I think this is going to leave some good markings, and I love using wax paper in projects. So whatever kind of mess I make, I think it's going to be nice on this wax paper. So, and this fabric, you could use any fabric. I mean, old pillowcases, linens, anything would be great for this project. I'm using some that I'm not really sure what it is. It kind of feels and looks like a muslin. I don't know if you can see that. It's not super heavy, but not real light. It's kind of in between, and I really like how it comes out. So today I've got 2 pieces, and I'm going to make one with some distress inks in blues. That's going to be for my ocean journal. And then I'm going to use one with watercolor and more fall festive colors for that journal. So I'm going to start with the blue because I think I'm going to show you both ways. Like I say, it shows, doesn't make a huge difference if you stamp before or after. It just kind of gives it a little bit more grungy look if you stamp before and then put your paints down. It's a little bit more muted. So I think on my ocean one, I want those to show up a little bit better. So I'm going to color my fabric first on those. I've just pulled out some blues and a little bit of gathered twig for maybe sand, and a couple of orange and yellows, I'm thinking like for some coral, and of course some green. So I'm just going to spray these in no certain way because I don't know what I'm going to stamp on them yet. I just know they're going to be of the ocean. So I'm just randomly spraying colors. And this one is Salty Ocean, and this one was Peacock Feathers. Just trying to use some different shades. This one's called Twisted Citron. And I didn't wet my fabric, but you really could, and maybe I will to make it move a little bit more. And look, it's kind of soaking up from underneath. Isn't that cool? I like that. So on that part, I've done some blues. On this part, I think I'm going to do a little bit of brown. And some of the carved pumpkin. That one was gathered twigs. This one is spice marmalade. Squeezed lemon. And I did already shake these up prior to turning on the camera. Look how easy that was. And look how pretty the colors are. And don't be afraid to use a lot of color, because when it dries, it's going to dry a lot lighter than it's showing now. So I've just kind of did random splatterings. I kind of know the stamps I'm going to use, so I think these colors are going to work out fine. So I'm just going to lay this one aside and let it dry. On my second piece, I could move this, but I don't. I think because I'm going to use autumn, all the colors are fine. Maybe not so much the blues. I'm not going to get a different piece. I'm just going to continue on. We're going to stamp these first. Just pulled out some leaves and only had one pumpkin. And I'm just going to do some kind of random on here. I want to leave enough space for the tearing, of course. Oh, isn't that pretty? Look how good that does. So pretty. Stamps so good. I love it. I'll do a couple pumpkins. And then also on little ones like this, once I tear it at the end, I can always come back in with, like, if I have too much at the top, and obviously on these pumpkins, I'm going to have some extra space, I would just stamp that. I probably won't do it till after I tear it, so that, I don't have to be so cautious when I'm tearing it. So I'm just taking a couple of different leaves here. And I'm probably going to do these, and it doesn't matter which direction you do it, because, of course, when they're dry and you've torn them, you can position them any way you want to. And again, I'm just leaving enough room for tearing. If whenever it's done, I see I've got too much space, again, I can always come back in with some smaller ones like that. Make use of all of it. But do try to make sure, if you're like me and you're a sloppy stamper, if you get some on your bar, be sure and wipe it off before you stamp. I know that's probably doesn't even need to be said, but you don't want any extras transferring. I mean, I guess if you're making something really grungy like I usually do, the black is not going to hurt anything. It's just going to add to whatever you've made. Just going to give it a more grungy look. All right, so that's all I'm going to stamp for now. I'm going to go ahead and start painting. And I'm going to start down here because you kind of need to let that dry a bit. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll start losing a lot of that black color. Look at my hands already. Black color will just kind of fade into the background. So I'm going to get some of my colors out that I want to use here. These are from Addington and Sedgwick, I believe is what it's called. Addison and Sedgwick. And these are just two of their palettes. I'm going to choose a lot of the browns and orange, maybe a little of the reddish autumn, just autumn colors on these. So I'm going to go ahead and spray a little bit down here. These should be getting good and dry. So I like to wet my fabric good where it moves around. And then I also wet my paints and just start coloring. On some of them, I mixed a lot of colors together, like I showed you before. On these, I think I'm probably going to do that same style. A lot of mixing colors. And I'm putting it on pretty dark because, again, it's going to dry a lot lighter. So even if you think, oh, that was too dark, I can't see my stamp, you will when it dries. I'm picking up some of that orange from the Distress inks before. So I'm just going to continue painting and spraying whenever it gets a little bit too dry or thick to spread it out, using different colors, fall colors. You can see I changed my paintbrush. I picked one that has a thicker end. The other one was kind of more like if you were painting details, and this one lets me paint just a little bit faster. And then I just also keep picking up the Distress ink that I used from before, the yellow. It seems like it has a brighter color than the yellows in my watercolor palette. So I use that just to add a little burst of color on some of them. And you can certainly tear these before you paint and just do them one at a time. I just think it's easier to do a strip like this and then tear it at the end. Plus, it's kind of like doing a masterboard where you are pleasantly surprised at the colors that you'll end up with on your stamp. If you're wondering what you can use these for, they are great for adding clusters to pockets or tabs on pages. You can put a pin through them and use them as a charm dangle. There's just so many things to do with these. And the texture and the color just adds so much to your journals. All right, now we're just going to let this one dry. These leaves down here that I've got the bright colors on, I think I'm just going to spritz them with some of that Distress Oxide to just give them a pop of yellow and orange real quick. So I think I'm going to do a spritz of mustard seed and a little bit of spice marmalade. Look at that. Isn't it beautiful? It's already pretty. Okay, so we're just going to let this one dry too. And then we'll come back and see what we've got. Look at that paper. Isn't it going to be cool? Okay, so we're all dry now, and I thought I would show you the paper, how pretty it turned out. Isn't that cool? Just from where I laid it on it and it was wet. Here is what the leaves one turned out like. See, this was really dark green, and look, now it's not. Just kind of a grungy color. But see how much the watercolors fade. If I wanted to, I could go back over this and give it some more green, and I just might do that. I will say the Distress inks stay better than the watercolor. I'm sure that's probably obvious to some. It really wasn't to me, but I'm thinking about taking some Distress. I have an ink pad, and I might try it on that, but because I really want some green to come out on that. And then here is the one that we sprayed with Distress ink, and I'm going to stamp that one. And I pulled some stamps, beach theme stamps, and I'm just going to use black. I'm kind of wanting to stay with the black. I have this one. It's a sand dollar. I think I want to kind of do it in this brownish color here. And then I have some little stamps, like along the edge where, because I can, if I had brought this down lower, I could go along the edge. Like some of these will probably have more room. So I've got some sandals I want to do kind of like steps along the edge. But for now, let's just start stamping. So I'm just using different little stamps I have here, and I'm trying to stamp closer to one edge so that if I have extra, like over to the right of that beach sign, I can tear that and make smaller ones, like with little seashells or something like that, where I don't really waste much muslin. Or you could leave it like that and then pin something over there to the right, like a rusty safety pin, and hang a charm from it or something like that. So if you're stamping in a strip like I'm doing here versus tearing it and doing one piece at a time, don't be real concerned with your spacing being too much, because you can always either add another stamp to it or, like I said, put a charm on it and make it look more centered, not so off kilter. Like here, I'm using some shoes at the top to eat that space up. It's always better to have too much space as rather than it be too close, because when you go to tear each one, you might accidentally tear into your stamp. So it's so much better to have too much room. You can always adjust for that. And then also, if you'll notice, I have some black ink on the top of my stamp pad there. Make sure and keep those wiped off before you stamp, or you will end up with it on your fabric. And if you're not a grungy journaler like me, you may not want that extra on your fabric. I might go ahead and start tearing on the other one and give this one time to dry. And then I'm going to tear and fill in any extras I have with some of my smaller stamps. But isn't that pretty? So I think while I've got this one, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to run right up, make that a little smaller. And I'm going to keep this piece either to run along the edge, or I have some smaller leaves that I might kind of stamp. I actually think I'm going to stamp this one with the forest moss to see if it will show up. It may not. This is kind of a lighter color. Oh yeah, it looks cool. I hope you can see it. Oh, I can't find my plate, so I think I'm just going to stamp it off on my wax paper and spray it, and then just try to sop it up and see what happens. I hope it keeps some of the color. We'll see. If that's not dry by the end of the video, I'll take a heat tool to it so you can see if the green stayed. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut some of these. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut, looks like all of these. I've got plenty of room, so I'm going to go ahead and pull off all the way down through there. And then I'll have a really long strip if I need it for the edge of a page or something like that. And even though I got these a little closer to the top than the bottom, I can always put a rusty paper clip or a word down here and it'll make it look cool. Make it look like it's balanced. So there are our leaves. I think they look really good. I really, really like them. Really pretty. These should be dry now. I'm just snipping a little bit at the bottom. This muslin, well, this isn't actually muslin. It's kind of a muslin linen mix, but it tears very easily. So I just have to make a really small cut, and then I can pretty much tear it however I want to. So I think those turned out really good. And then I have all these wonderful extra pieces I love. I'm going to dry this one really quick just to show you what it looks like. There it is. I think it's gorgeous. Love it. And it did hold the grain. So there's three ways you can color it. You can use the distress sprays, the distress ink pads, just smush it down, add a little water, and of course, watercolors. I hope you like this video and we'll give it a try. Thanks, guys, for watching. See you next time. Bye.